If you want to level up your pass protection, then this video is for you. In this video, I'm going to go over the techniques that I teach my offensive line that show up on film at the highest levels of the sport. Last offseason, legendary offensive line coach Jim McNally joined Twitter, and he really started off with two things. He started off with my favorite play, which is wide zone, and then he started into one of the things that I wanted to learn most last offseason, which was more about pass protection. So naturally, I paid really close attention. And he's taught a lot more than just these techniques that I'm going to talk about in this video, but I'm a really big Pareto principle guy, finding the 20% of the input that affects 80% of the output. So he's teaching everything he's learned over almost half a century in the NFL, but my 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids don't need to know all that. I narrowed down what I thought they needed to know, and this season we had a great season in pass protection. So in this video, we're going to talk about the techniques that we used to keep our quarterback clean all season long. So in this video, we're talking about pass protection techniques, not necessarily scheme. We're going to go over the techniques. First, I want to go through our stats from this season as far as pass protection goes. When we're just talking about drop back and quick game passing, we're not talking about screens, whether they're fast or slow. We're not talking about rollout passing. We're talking about our quarterbacks getting the snap and he's dropping straight back. We only gave up 2 sacks in 67 attempts. That's not a ton of attempts. We didn't need to throw very often. We were really good at running the ball. So that's a 3% sack rate for our quarterback, and we averaged throughout the season on those 67 snaps 2.63 seconds time to throw. And there's a lot that's baked into that number, and I think that that number should actually be higher if it's going to accurately represent the pocket that we were giving the quarterback. We threw lots of quick game passes. Our head coach and our wide receiver coach did a really great job scheming guys open really quickly. So a lot of the times we had a super clean pocket, but the ball was still out in 1.8, 1.9 seconds very often. So I think that an accurate representation of our offensive line would even have a lot more of an average time to throw if the quarterback was maxing out the amount of time he had in the pocket. So I was really happy when I saw these numbers. It was really validating the techniques that we were using, and I really want to share those with you in this video. So our principles in pass protection, and these first two for runs as well. The first touch wins. The Browns did a study, and we're going to see their offensive line in this video. The Browns did a study, I think, after the 2021 season, and they found that 80% of the time, the lineman that touched the other first won that individual block. If the defensive lineman got hands on the offensive lineman first, he won that block 80% of the time. If the offensive lineman got hands on the defensive lineman first, he won that block 80% of the time. So the first touch wins, and we're going to see that throughout this video. The next principle is first level first. Normally that means in the run game, let's make sure we take care of the defensive line first. But in pass protection, that for me means that I want my offensive line blocking guys that are pass rushers, not off-ball linebackers that can blitz. I want to be blocking guys that are on the line of scrimmage, whether it's defensive linemen, whether it's walk down outside linebackers. As far as our scheme goes, those are the guys that we're focused on more with our offensive line. Now getting into some more pass protection specific principles, the interior of the offensive line, that's your guards and your center, set the depth of the pocket. We don't want them getting pushed back into the quarterback. We want to set the depth of the pocket as close to the line of scrimmage as possible to give the quarterback the maximum amount of space to work. And the tackles set the width of the pocket with their kick slides. So the interior sets the depth, the tackles set the width, and it looks like a true pocket. If you think about the pocket on blue jeans, it should look like that, just upside down if done correctly using our principles. The next one is a common saying that we hear: pass pro isn't passive. We want to be aggressive at the line of scrimmage, especially on the interior, setting the depth of that pocket. A big one is that one arm is longer than two. So we're trying to win the first touch, right? So we need to get hands on as early as possible, which means every inch of space between us and the defender is really important. So we need to get as long as possible with our arms to get to him as fast as possible. That means one arm is longer than two. We need to be reaching out with one arm first so that we can reach longer and get hands on that defensive lineman sooner, which means we aren't double punching. That's a very common thing in pass protection, is that both hands go together. You can see it on almost any film. It's a really Hard habit because we do double punch when we're run blocking and we run so often. So it's hard habit to break when we get into pass protection, but that's one of the principles that I coach is we shouldn't be double punching. And then when we punch, we don't want to lunge. We need to stay in the chair. We're punching out, but that doesn't mean we're lunging into the punch. So one arm is longer than two. We're trying to get that first touch on them as quick as possible. Every inch matters in the space between linemen. And then when we're punching, we don't want to lunge. If we lunge and miss, the whole protection is compromised. So we need to stay balanced, stay in control of our weight, keep our center of gravity, and be punching out with our hands, not with our hips. Now, although the hands are important, it does still start with the footwork. And we have 3 different things that we do based on where the defender is at. If the defender for an interior offensive lineman is outside, we're going to use what's called the upkick. If the defender is inside of us, we're going to drop the post. So think about our stance. For what I have my guys do is we have the inside foot up and the backside foot, the toes of the backside foot are in line with the heel of the inside foot. We call that the post foot. So if the defender is inside of us, we're going to drop our post foot. We're going to gain depth so that there's space between us and the defender, and we're going to close that space with our punch. Now, those two are going to cover almost every situation. The biggest one we would run into that doesn't have this situation is if we are 5-0'd, if we're in big-on-big protection and our center has a head-up nose, then we would do what's called the brace hop. Now, the brace hop is also used in a different scenario. We're going to talk about it. We're going to see it on film. But the primary scenario where that would be what I'm looking for before the snap would be a head-up defender that I'm solo blocking. So that's going to cover it for the interior. And then our tackles are going to set on an angle B on a 45-degree angle. I tell them to do that all the time. I think that it's a good catch-all. It can help you get to a decent position almost any time, unless we have a 4-eye that we're trying to cut off, in which case they will also drop their post foot and gain depth to try and cut him off. So first, let's look at the up kick, which is a flat to slightly forward step toward a defender that's outside of you. So we're going to look at the right guard right here, up kicking on the 3. It doesn't matter what part of the slide you are on. We could have a 4-man slide to the right here, and he's still outside of you, or we could have a 3-man slide to the left, and then the guard and tackle are man back here. Either way, it doesn't matter. We're going to be up kicking. The only time we wouldn't up kick is if we had a sink call, but we'll get into that another time. So if we watch it in slow motion, look at his right foot. He's firing his feet. He's coming forward to the 3. Okay, he's not letting this defensive tackle get a rush on him. Not a huge fan of the hands right here. This is Wyatt Teller, one of the best guards in the league. I'm not telling him what to do. I just don't teach a push-pull for high school because I'm too scared it's going to get called for holding by refs that don't know better. So we're attacking the 3 right here with the up kick. We're not letting him get a rush off. We're not letting him get ahead of steam before we get hands on him to where he can bull rush us and get us driven back. We're trying to set the depth of the pocket at the line of scrimmage, and you can see it right here. We've got the guards and the center setting the depth of the pocket, the tackles setting the width of the pocket. Again, seeing it from this side, it's the right side up for Blue Jeans, but you can really see the idea of a pocket right here, and the Browns quarterback has all day to throw. Again, we're going to look at Wyatt Teller right here, this time on a 4-eye instead of a 3. On the other side of the angle, look at him firing his feet, getting up to the defender. Okay, the defensive lineman has no time to get ahead of steam before Teller can get there. All right, again, we're going to talk about the hands later on, but you can see the feet right here. This is how I want our feet when we have an interior offensive lineman blocking somebody outside of him. This is the up kick. We're getting forward, or at least lateral towards the defender with our feet. So if the defender is inside of us, now we have to drop the post. We're going to get depth in our first step from our lead foot against the defender inside. Now, unlike the up kick, this should always be towards the slide. Otherwise, the guard would be working to somebody outside of him if he's not the 4th man in the slide. So I'm not somebody who likes to say always a lot. This is one time I feel pretty confident in saying it. So this is going to be a guard working to a 1, to a 2-eye, to a head-up nose. or a tackle working to a 4-eye. But we're going to look at his left foot right here at the snap, look at it, get depth. It's not much. He's not just jumping backwards. All right, but now his foot is in front of him. His post foot's in front. Now they're even, okay? I might like to get a little bit more depth, but they're even, okay? He's not attacking the one. He's getting a little bit of help from the center, with the center leaving that hand but being ready for the pinch by number 93. But we're getting just a little bit of depth in that front foot to put a little bit more space so we can beat the lineman there. And we're going to talk about the hands that should come with this a little bit later on in the video. But we're dropping the post. That lead foot, that inside foot that's forward, is now going to come back just ever so slightly against a defender inside of us. We'll see it again here. Sometimes it happens later. So right now we've got a right tackle that has a 5. You might even call this a 9 technique. He's going to kick slide out to him. And now the outside linebacker, Khalil Mack, dips inside. So look at the left foot here of the right tackle, number 79. He's kick sliding out just like he would on his 45-degree angle. Boom. Defensive rusher comes inside. Post foot goes back. All right, kick slide inside. Drop that post foot and go cut him off. One more time. Right here, looking at his left foot. Drop it back. Cut off one of the best pass rushers in the league. Going to be a future Hall of Famer, Khalil Mack. Now we'll look at the brace hop. And what this is going to do is it's going to reroute our feet to create better leverage. So rooting your feet means getting your feet behind your hips so you can use your hips as strength. This is how you can stop a bull rush, or it's also how you block somebody head up on you in my pass protection system. This is something that can happen in the second half of a block. So we've already got hands on. Now we're getting driven back. You brace hop to create that leverage to reroute your feet and maintain the block. Or this is when the center gets solo on that head up nose. So again, this is the default technique for a center if we've got a head up nose and we're 5-0'd. You can see him right here. All right, look at him hopping back. Okay, both feet go in the air. He's alternating his feet a little bit more. I kind of like them both to hit the ground at the same time, but you get the idea that now we're trying to get our feet behind our hips. All right, look at him right here. We get our feet behind our hips, and now the rush is stalled. One more time right here at the end. Now he's slowed up, partially because we get the help from the right guard, but also partially because we get better leverage on him by brace hopping with the feet. So this is also something you can use late in the rush. You've already gone through your strikes. You've already upkicked. You've already dropped your post. The quarterback still has the ball and you're still in protection. Use this late in the rush to reroute your feet. So you can see we had a really nice upkick right here by Wyatt Teller on this 4-eye, this 3. But he's still getting blown back after the initial rush. And we can see in this picture right here, we see those rooted feet. We've got our feet behind our extended hips, and now this rusher's going nowhere except up to get the ball. And whenever defensive ends jump up, we need to put them in the ground. Got to punish jumpers, make them scared to jump to bat the ball down. But you can see the idea here. We've brace hopped, we've rooted our feet, and we've stalwarted the rush. So we have a good contrast on this play right here of what happens with a good brace hop versus what happens with a bad one. The center has a good brace hop, although he gets to it a little bit late for my liking, but the right guard does not do a very good job on his brace hop, and we can see the difference in how it affects the play. So we'll look at the center first. See right here, that's what I don't like. I don't like that he's backing up already. I want to get hands on right now and then brace hop back from there, but because he is coming back a little bit, he gets driven back a little bit before he hits that brace hop. And he's one-on-one with Vita Vea, maybe the strongest nose tackle in the league. Not going to say the best, but maybe the strongest. And he's blocking him one-on-one. And because he's brace hopped right here, he's rerouted. He's stuffed him. But now we look at the right guard. They are going 3 for 2 over here on the edge. And he doesn't root his feet. And he's just getting driven back. All right, this is one reason we don't want to let defensive ends get ahead of steam. He's getting bull rushed right here. Right here, he should hop back, root his feet, and stuff this rush. But he doesn't do a very good job of it and almost gets driven right into the quarterback as he's throwing. So moving on to our hands, the strike system that we use, it's a 1-2-3. The first one is an outside pillar. That's going to be the first punch we use, the only punch we use to start. Don't want to double punch. always starting with the outside hand, and we'll get into more of that. So we start with the outside pillar, then we bring an inside lift that will convert to a clamp if they try and pinch after the outside punch. Then we're going to get our outside hand in there under his shoulder pads, and we're going to try and lift him out of his shoes. All right, so before we get into the specifics, we're going to talk just a little bit about the hands. Remember that the first touch wins, and one arm is longer than two. We're going to see this with the left tackle right here. We can already see double punching. Okay, he's not playing long. One arm is longer than two. He's using two arms right now, and the outside linebacker is controlling this contact. Yes, they're kind of giving each other a high five mid-rush, but the outside linebacker is smacking his hands down. When you double punch and you get both hands smacked down at once, you cannot win the play. That's one of the reasons that we want to use one hand, because if one hand gets beat, we still have another. If we use two hands and they both get clubbed down, then we're toast. All right, almost impacts the play because we're playing with both hands instead of one and alternating strikes and not winning the first touch. Right here, we're going to see the left guard. He's not being proactive. Okay, again, he's not going to win the first touch. All we're doing is firing our feet in place. All right, we're not being proactive, not attacking. We're just firing our feet. The defensive lineman wins the first touch, rips right underneath him. All right, shouldn't be firing our feet just like this with nothing with our hands. Got to get hands on him. Should have hands on him right now. Should have an outside pillar on him right now, but he's not, and the defensive lineman wins the rush. We use our outside hand first because if we lose with the outside hand, sometimes they'll rush inside where we have that free hand. If your inside hand gets batted down, then you're toast. All right, quarterback does a good job avoiding the rusher outside the pocket, but he shouldn't have to because we should be using the outside hand first. There it is. He's double punching again. Left tackle trying to get both hands on him. Get the inside hand batted down. You're beat inside. So that's 3 examples of what I don't want to see. This one right here is what I do want to see, and we're going to talk about how we get to it. We're going to get a long arm first strike. We can see him kick out. He's going to use his length. Boom. Okay. Look how much longer one arm is than two. He's got his elbow drawn back with his left side. He's got his right arm out. You're actually going to see him drop his right foot a little bit to make that right arm even longer. Okay. All the reach right here. He's won the first touch. He's controlling this rush right now. This defensive end can't get built up to speed because he doesn't have enough time before he has hands on him. Okay, so we want that long arm first strike. Then we're going to get that inside hand in there to start trying to lift him up, refit that right hand, and finish by lifting him out of his shoes. All right, so we've got that long arm first strike, and then the lift to finish him. Deflect his force upward, and he's done. So it starts with the outside pillar. This is a long arm strike. We're going from our outside arm to the same side shoulder. If we've got a tackle on a defensive end like on that last play, we're trying to get his outside shoulder. Even if we're dropping the post, we still want to use our outside pillar so that we can bring him back to the outside if that's where he tries to go. We'll see that on a clip here as well. But you want to win the first touch. Very important. You want to get as long as possible to win the first touch, and you want to stun the defender as early as possible in the rush. Don't let him get ahead of steam to where he can bull rush you now. If you get him before he gets all revved up, they don't know what to do. Remember, this is the first strike we're going to make every time on every scenario. Even when our center is solo on the nose, he's going to snap with one hand, and the other hand should be coming up as a pillar punch. Then he's going to refit that other hand and brace hop backwards. So we see it right here from the right side of the offensive line. Going to see those pillar punches. We can see them in perfect unison right here. One, okay, from the right guard. Defensive end takes 2 steps. Not enough to really get ahead of steam to affect the rush much at all. And there's the right tackle. All right, that's Joey Bosa. And he's getting blocked with one hand because he doesn't have time to get up to speed. There's nothing he can do. Outside pillar. Again, from the right tackle, you can see one arm. There it is. Okay, he's not even using the other arm hardly. Doesn't need to. All right, the outside pillar gets there so quick that the pass rusher has nothing he can do. All right, you win the first touch, you win the block. So even when we are dropping the post, we want to use the outside pillar. So center's going to drop his post foot right here against this shaded 1, and he hits him with the right hand first. Okay, so he's kind of reaching across his body, not turning his shoulders by reaching across his body. Got the outside pillar there first, wins the first touch, wins the block. So that's our first punch, is the outside pillar. Then we're going to follow it up with an inside lift. We're going to grab underneath, inside of his chest plate like an uppercut with our inside hand. This is our second strike. So we're going to pillar punch with our outside hand. Then we're going to bring it back. Okay, remember, one arm is still longer than two. We don't want to hold that hand on him. We're going to punch him, stun him, and as our left hand gets there, our right arm is going to come back so we can still play long. And then what happens is we stun with the outside hand with the pillar punch, and sometimes their counter move will be, oh, well, he doesn't have me inside, so let me rush inside. Boom, that's when the inside hand gets there. If they try and pinch inside, then the lift is going to become more of a clamp where we're getting a little more sideways versus vertical with the punch, if that's what they do to try and counter the outside pillar. So we see it from the left guard right here. So the offensive line is slow off the ball right here. I'm not really sure why, because they're in Cleveland. But boom, here's our outside pillar. It gets batted down. Okay, if this was a double punch, the rush would be over. Okay, quarterback would be getting hit. Left guard could do nothing. But he's got his inside hand still, so he's going to lift him up with his inside hand. You can see him deflect that force by coming with an uppercut from his inside hand. And now he has regained control of the rush. Quarterback gets the throw off. All right, so we're watching the right guard right here. What we're actually going to see is the pillar punch get knocked down, but because he still has that inside hand, right, he still has somewhere to go, and the defensive lineman thinks that he's going to come inside. So pillar punch gets knocked down. Now he's going to counter by coming inside. So the right guard here, Wyatt Teller, converts to a clamp, and as the defensive lineman's trying to come inside, Teller going right with him because of the clamp, and stuffs the rush. So we're trying to hit that outside pillar, and if we don't, then we're going to convert it to an inside clamp versus this inside rush if that's the counter move to the outside pillar. All right, looking at both left tackle and right guard right here, we'll look at the left tackle first. There's our outside pillar. All right, no inside clamp. Right guard, very similar. A little bit slow, not quite as strong with his outside pillar. You can see him kind of thinking about it right here, but he's not actually landing it. Got to be fast, extend that arm, get it on him right now, but he gets batted down, and he doesn't get that clamp on the inside, so he gets beat across his face. Not something that should happen with a strong inside clamp, as you saw in the last clip. So this is, again, what it should look like on a good inside clamp. We're actually going to get a fake pillar punch right here from the right guard. This is something you can do if you're a pro. You can see him fake it. Maybe they've knocked it down earlier in the game, and he knows he's going to come inside. So you can see he gives him the fake pillar right there, knowing he's going to get the inside rush, and there's the clamp. So the third strike we're going to do, the finishing move, is the outside lift. This is your uppercut, and that's really what it is with your outside hand. We're uppercut. We're finishing this rusher. We're going to take him out of his shoes. We're going to deflect his force upward, especially against the bull rush. They're trying to knock you back. We're going to take all that force and drive it up so that we can handle it. And then from here, we're just going to continue to refit until that whistle blows. We get both hands underneath the chest pad. We're driving him up. If he knocks our hands away, we're just going to come bring it right back underneath, get under that chest plate, and keep taking his shoulder pads off of him. So here we've got the left guard. Doesn't have all the same strikes that we do. Again, they're the pros. They can do some different things. But look at his left arm, his outside arm. You can see it lift right here. Look at this uppercut on the shoulder pad and bringing it right underneath. Okay, really pay attention to that outside arm right here. This is what an inside lift is. See it coming underneath, uppercut, boom, right underneath the shoulder pads. Look at that hip extension, trying to take his shoulder pads off of him right here. All right, we've got both hands underneath the shoulder pads. Lift him out of his shoes. All right, so we're watching the right tackle right here. This is actually going to be a play action pass, and the one is going to stunt across the guard right here. So the right tackle is going to block number 69. We can see, boom, outside pillar right there. He wins the first touch. Look at his inside hand coming underneath. And now look for the outside hand. Look at him lifting, taking those shoulder pads off. Okay, this is exactly what you want to see. deflecting the force, okay, deflecting the force of the rush, taking it upwards, literally taking his shoulder pads off of him. There's nothing that number 69 can do right here when we get to this position. Look at the brace hops. Okay, this is everything we want to see. Brace hops, get that hip extension, and take his shoulder pads off. Can't do it much better than that. All right, again, we're going to see right here all three put together by Wyatt Teller on the 4-eye right here. We're going to see the up kick to the outside pillar, to the inside clamp, to the outside lift. All three combined. Here's the up kick to the outside pillar. There comes the inside clamp. You can see the tackle trying to cross his face, but he can't because he's clamped up. Watch that right hand now. Get underneath him, lift him up. There it is. All right, you can see him brace hopping back. Boom. Hit that uppercut right there. Take his shoulder pads off. Don't forget to punish jumpers. Last one right here, we're going to see the right tackle. Going to see a great kick slide and all the hands right where they need to be on this outside linebacker. Kick sliding right on the 45-degree angle. Boom. There's our outside pillar. Okay, playing long, winning the first touch. There comes the inside lift. All right, you can see him getting underneath the chest plate there. And boom, there's both of them put together. Deflect that force upward. Take him out of his shoes. You get a little help there because he jumps up trying to knock the pass. Got to put him in the ground. So to review, remember that the first touch wins. That's the primary principle behind all of this to me. Anytime we got beat, whether it was in the run game or in the pass protection up front this season, you can almost always point back to, well, you didn't get hands on him before he got hands on you. And 80% of the time in the pros, that's the reason. And I think that that might be an even higher number in high school. Don't forget that one arm is longer than two. So when you're pillar punching with your outside hand, your inside hand should be drawn back to help turn your shoulders a little bit, get that extra inch or two. And then once you get that hands on, you can drop that back foot like we did. We saw with the right tackle right there. Get as long as we can and don't double punch. I like to teach thought processes to my offensive line, and this is what it is for our pass protection. Remember, for the interior, if he's outside of you, you have an up kick. If he's inside of you, you're dropping the post. And then if he's head up on you and you're solo against him, you're going to brace hop. Tackles, remember, we're 45-degree setting all the time. We can adjust it different from there if we need to, but 45 is the base. And then tackle's also going to drop the post against somebody inside of us. Don't forget you can brace hop late in the rush to regain your leverage so you're getting driven back. All right, you need to reroute your feet, get your feet behind your hips, arc that back so that you can use all of that extension strength to stuff the rush. Then our punches, first punch, outside pillar, second punch, inside lift that converts to a clamp versus a pinch. And then we're going to lift him out of his shoes, that uppercut with the outside lift, the finishing move to finish off the rusher. So let me know down in the comments what pass protection schemes you like to use. Are you a half slide guy? Do you full slide? Are you a man protection guy with Bob up front? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to know my favorite pass protections, click the link in the description below. I've got them all beautifully diagrammed out, and I will send them to you in that link in the description below. If you got any value out of this video, I'd really appreciate if you hit that like button. That tells YouTube to show this video to other coaches, so hopefully we can all learn together. And I have a lot of great stuff planned for this off season, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of it. I mentioned my pass protection playbook. One of the protections that you'll find in there is scat protection, and if you want to find out more about that, click the screen and watch this next video.